Thank you. Thank you for your time and coming out on this slightly warm day. Professionally, I'm not actually a politician. I have a day job. And I work in information security, particularly financial fraud. So it's usually organized crime that tries to steal money out of your checking accounts, bank accounts, basically organized crime. So, you know, what does that have to do with politics? Well, I can think of no better training for Illinois politics than dealing with organized crime every day. How many of you are excited about the governor's race this year in November? Are you excited about our congressional races and Randy Holcren's chances? I'm here to talk about a different race that you may not be thinking about, the judicial retention race, particularly for the Illinois Supreme Court. And on that I have good news and I have bad news. We'll start with the bad news. If you had to guess which was the strongest branch of government, judicial, legislative, or executive, right now, which would you say? Go ahead, shout it out. Judicial. I would agree. The main reason why is judicial activism. The executive branch and legislative branch, they're free to exercise their powers only when the federal and state Supreme Court says it's okay. Why is judicial activism so bad? Well, most of the time it goes against the Constitution and what values we want to see in our government. More importantly, while it should be the weakest branch, it is also the least accountable branch. That's something Randy Holcren talked about. How many times has anybody seen a judge, particularly a federal judge, held to account for misconduct in the history of this country? Not very often. In fact, the only judge I can think who's ever been impeached and thrown off the bench from the federal court, his name's L.C. Hastings. Right now, after being thrown off the bench, he became a United States congressman. I'll let you guess which party he belongs to. But we have our state Supreme Court is also activist in three particular ways. Social issues. Obviously, with a heavy Democrat court, a heavy Chicago Democrat court, it's obvious where they lean on social issues. In 1990, in the 90s, we passed a law, overwhelmingly, of parental notification. If you're a child, if you're a minor who wanted an abortion, your parents had to be notified. Not that they had to be consent, they just had to be notified. For 10 years, this law was not enforced in Illinois because the Illinois Supreme Court would not issue a rule to enforce it. They knew what the law was, they simply ignored it. Fiscal issues. Bill Brady talked about tort reform. Overwhelmingly, we passed medical malpractice caps in Illinois. The Illinois Supreme Court said no. That's unconstitutional because of separation of powers. Or to put it another way, checks and balances mean there can be no checks and balances on the judicial branch. Think about that for a second and what that means. Now on to the good news. Unlike federal judges, Illinois Supreme Court judges have to run for retention. What that means is November, you will see a list of judges, and it'll say, shall Judge or Justice X be retained, yes or no? If you say no, then they no longer get to be a judge. The news is a little bit better. You don't have to have 50% of people say no. You only need 40% of people to say no. There are two Supreme Court justices in Illinois, or in Cook County, who are up for retention. Justice Kilbride and Justice, not Kilbride, Fitzgerald and Freeman, excuse me. Unfortunately, DuPage and Kane voters, you can't vote in those races. But Fitzgerald and Freeman have been on the wrong side of all of these issues and leading the court towards an activist point of view for a long time. Fitzgerald is actually the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. What you can do to bring reform to Illinois, and what you can do, or reform to the court, bring about tort reform, or any number of reasonable issues that have gotten nowhere because of our Supreme Court, is that you can vote no on Fitzgerald and Freeman. Tell your friends and family to vote no on Fitzgerald and Freeman, and we can send them, after November, looking for another job. Thank you for coming out on this warm day, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.